everybody. Welcome to this joint webinar between Glassdoor and AssessFirst. We're talking about how culture can have a direct effect on hiring top talent. And it's the second time we've done a joint webinar with Glassdoor. The last time we talked about values and culture, and one of the questions at the very end, and if you want to ask us any questions, you can type them in on the webinar as well. One of the questions at the end was, what is company culture? Meaning, how do you define it? And that's such a huge subject and a really good question that we would like to touch on that today. But not only that, to be able to go into how you identify it, spread the message of who you are, and even further, how you are able to recruit based on your company culture to attract top talent. My name is John Hughes. I'm the account executive with AssessFirst. For those people who don't know what AssessFirst do, we have a platform which allows you to recruit people based on their natural talents, based on their soft skills, and also to relate that to a particular job and to your company culture, as we're going to be speaking about today. I'm also joined by Finola Lawler from Glassdoor. Finola, maybe you want to say a few words just to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, John. Hello, everybody, and good morning. So I am an account manager here at Glassdoor. So I spend my days working with companies, helping them meet their recruiting needs and grow their employer brand, so that they're ensuring that they capture top talent. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Finola. Okay, so let's begin by looking at company culture impact. Does it really have an impact on turnover and retention? Currently, 44% of millennials said they wanted to leave their current employer in the next 2 years. Meaning these are young potential influencers who are already somewhat disengaged and unhappy with what they're doing. A study by LeMade and Quantum Workplace showed that 72% of employees find their support within an organization from its company culture. So that goes into this big question I mentioned at the beginning, which is, what is company culture? And a really good definition of it is by Francis Fry and Anne Morris from the Harvard Business Review. And they said this: culture guides discretionary behavior, and it picks up where the employee handbook leaves off. Culture tells us how to respond to an unprecedented service request. It tells us whether to risk telling our bosses about our new ideas and whether to surface or hide problems. Employees make hundreds of decisions on their own every day, and culture is our guide. Culture tells us what to do when the CEO isn't in the room, which of course is most of the time. Having a strong culture helps companies increase their staff loyalty and engagement by up to 88%. And here you see the idea that culture within our workplace actually guides the decisions that employees make. And furthermore, the idea that if you can get your company culture right, it will mean that employees are engaged and look forward to going to their jobs, that they enjoy the challenges they face there, their co-workers, and the atmosphere. Work at times may be difficult, but that doesn't mean that the atmosphere has to be stressful. If you get the culture right, employees work better. And then there's the bottom line, profitability. Companies who do get it right have seen their profitability rise by up to 2.5 times by making sure their workers were engaged with their values. So, going back to the original question from our last webinar, what is it? How do you identify your own culture? So, what's interesting to do is to look at the kind of axis you sit on in terms of whether your company is relationship-based or results-based, whether it's one that has a lot of flexibility, or one that has a lot of control, a lot of set rules in place in terms of defining who you are? And when you look at it in that kind of way, you can say, okay, if my culture is one of flexibility but results driven, it's probably a company that is very innovative. Could be a startup. It could be a company with a lot of growth, where things are changing all the time and there's a lot of innovation. Or if it's one which is more about control and results based, it could be one of competition. It could be more of a traditional company. It could be a sales company. The other side of that, where it's more relationships based, but there's still a lot of control, still a lot of rules. It might be lawyers, that might be insurance, that companies like that. It's one more of organization. Or flip side of that, one with flexibility, but still relationship based. Could be teachers, could be services. It's one more of collaboration. It's interesting to think of that in terms of just establishing what your culture is itself. Culture can be a recruiting tool. And for that, employing based on what your culture is, or employing those people which will thrive and blossom within your culture and challenges, is how you create the right balance. Culture is the glue that keeps the company together and drives those who are at home within it. And when you put a focus on company culture, you will be able to set your guiding principles. You will be able to hire based on it, and will give those people you hired a shared sense of purpose. As I said, it's what glues the company together. And if you can get it right, company culture facilitates employee happiness, lower turnover, and better performance. When you only focus on what someone does as opposed to how they do it, you're ignoring the kind of effects that lots of startups see when they hit huge growth. And the adverse effects of recruiting outside of your company culture can be significant. You have to focus on who they really are. Now, in order to really understand an individual, a candidate who is coming to you as to whether they fit into your company culture, we believe there are three axes to look at: their reasoning, their motivation, and their personality. And at AssessFirst, we've developed three different evaluations to try and understand that. So for reasoning, we have the brain. It's an evaluation which candidates can do online, and it will tell you, if someone's applying for a job with you, how they think, what their learning style is, what their decision making is like. In terms of really understanding culture, we have drive, and if a candidate takes drive, we're able to say what they want to do, how they want to do it, where they want to do it, significant in terms of culture, and why. And lastly, for someone's personality, we have shape, where we can say what someone's natural working style is like, how they work with other people, and how they deal with their emotions. With all three evaluations together, we can tell you what somebody's natural talents are, what they do better than anybody else. But also, and this is where it becomes really interesting, we have a predictive model where we can say how well someone will work in a particular job, how they would work with the manager, how they are as part of a team, and how they fit into your culture. This is something that has been analyzed by Harvard Business School professors Howard Stevenson and Eric Sinoway. And this way of looking at your employees is a really interesting way to see the effects culture can have on the kind of people that you recruit. So you can have your stars. These are the employees that everybody loves. They're high performers, and they do it the right way. They do the right thing, meaning their behavior builds and supports the organization's culture. Secondly, you can have high potentials, and these are people whose behavior is aligned to the company culture, but they may need training, time, and support to become a future star. After that, you've got zombies. Now, zombies fall into both categories. They're not high performers, and their cultural and organizational spirit is not in keeping with the company. These people, though, can inflict very little harm to your company, as their impact is mitigated by the fact that they lack credibility within it. Often they're the type of profile companies seek to avoid because they're not giving a valuable contribution, but they can also do very little harm. Vampires are actually the real threat, because these are people that actually perform very well, but they're at cross purposes with the values and culture you want to embody. Because their functional performance is so strong, they have both power and influence. And what's more, over time, they can also gain followers. Sometimes the zombies we saw before, who may share a different set of values and aspire to do better. And what happens there is there can be a band of vampires and zombies attacking the stars, high potentials, and leaders, and denigrating the best practice that you sought so hard to create. This goes beyond just work. Those stars you employ, they're the real embodiment of your company. They'll meet people outside work. They'll be asked what they do, talk of their perception of that place. How they discuss that with others makes a massive impact on how your company is viewed. One bad recruitment can affect a whole team of staff, or even your customers, and that can spread very quickly. So here Finola is going to talk a little bit about how to attract the right candidate to your culture. Finola.
Thank you, John. So yeah, as John said, we're going to take a look at how culture can directly affect hiring, the hiring of top talent. So if you could move to the next slide, John. Thank you. So at Glassdoor, we're helping companies to really revolutionize the way that they build their employer brand from within to recruit that top talent that we all know is out there. So recruiting and retaining top talent is becoming more and more of a challenge for employers, as the market has transitioned over a period of time to become more of a candidate-driven market. What this means is that recruiting is competitive, and you'll find that you'll be up against your competitors when looking to hire top talent. So as you spend your time attracting this top talent, it's just as important to retain it. And we can do this by engaging our candidates and then employers at every stage, from attraction to hire, and then when they're working at your company too. So let's take a deep dive into what the profile of that top talent looks like in today's candidate-driven market. So as a company, Glassdoor sees traffic of over 57 million users per month, who are all, or a lot of, potential candidates. So this speaks to the audience that you as a company have the potential to engage using the Glassdoor platform. 75% of you say that attracting quality candidates is your single biggest problem. You're getting lots of applicants, but not the right ones, which means sifting through a ton of applications, not necessarily finding a suitable candidate. This is a new problem to the industry, as strong candidates have their pick of roles. This is not HR's biggest problem in the past, but things are changing. So what is happening, to really understand why this is the case, let's step back and look at the changes in today's candidates. So research shows that it is the informed candidates that understand you and your company. Firstly, they do not just turn up to the interview, they're very well prepared and they ask really, really great pertinent questions. And the informed candidate is the candidate that knows about the job role, they know about the company culture and the values, they know about the comp package, and these are the candidates that really demonstrate that they have the right experience, they have the right expectations based on the research they've done at each stage of the hiring process. So platforms such as Glassdoor have encouraged that growth in the candidate experience. So let's briefly look at how Glassdoor influences these informed candidates throughout their recruitment journey. Glassdoor engages job seekers at every stage, from the first time they see a listing right through to application submission, interview, offer negotiation, and hire. Our data suggests that more than half of all job seekers visit Glassdoor to research the company they're actually applying to. So even if they're submitting their application directly to an ATS or even via another job site, 40% of UK job seekers consult company reviews when searching for a new role. And because informed candidates are fully researched and they do understand what they're entering into by joining your company, they're then therefore more likely to accept the offer, and you tend to see less buyer's remorse, which impacts on attrition rates and ultimately the company's bottom line. We've looked at who that top talent is. Okay, so now what journey, we're going to take a look at what journey they take when job hunting. So let's take a moment to look at how you can go about engaging with them throughout the next stage of the process. So this will be looking at your company culture and building it to ensure that it is attracting those top candidates. So this quote here, I absolutely agree with this quote. How would your people describe the experience of working at your company? Would they say it's laid back? Would they say it's a work hard, play hard kind of culture? So that essentially is your employer brand. And ultimately, it's your employees who will define it for you. So companies can say they are such a great place to work and shout it from the rooftops. But if your employees are not happy, they'll tell everyone they know. And frankly, with that, your brand is going to suffer. So whether you like it or not, your employees, they do have a voice. They share it with their social networks, and now they're sharing it on sites like Glassdoor. So use these reviews to find out more information about your company and its reputation. Know what work you have to do going forward. Consider this your first impression for many of your potential candidates. So let's take a look at 3 key steps to making your brand and your company reputation stronger. So the first one there, embrace feedback. The days of one-way conversations are over. The more transparent that you are as an organization, the healthier your culture will be. So 2, share what makes you unique. Don't be shy to post photos, videos, and company updates. And 3, get executive support. So summarize the activity on your Glassdoor profile for your executive team and point out the trends, the good and the bad, to help you make those improvements. So that transitions us into the question, are bad reviews bad? This is something we should all think about. Let's face it, constructive criticism, it can sting, but your immediate reaction may be to get defensive and even offended. But we have found that bad reviews can actually be good for business. So candidates want complete information. They notice when there are no bad reviews, they can actually become a little bit suspicious. So they will assume that you're censoring feedback in that way. So think of it this way. So if you are not losing job seekers by showing bad reviews, you're steering them towards jobs and companies that won't disappoint them. So this also gives you a platform to actually improve your reputation. The key stat here is that 65% of Glassdoor members agree their perception of a company improves after seeing an employer respond to a review. So when candidates see that you're engaged and listening, they're more likely to have a positive feeling towards you. And this shows just how powerful responding to reviews can be when building that external company culture to attract top talent. So now that you've hired top talent, let's take a look at how you can retain it. So while the vast majority of us know that employee engagement is critical to our organization's overall success, many of us are still unsure of the best way of incorporating engagement into both our recruitment and our retention strategies. So later on, we're going to touch on some low-cost and simple ways to increase employee engagement at your company. But before we wrap up the webinar, let's take a look at the next slide there, John. Thanks. Those engaged employees. So engaged employees are not just satisfied with their job, they're energized by it. So they're more likely to put in extra effort, and that's at the heart of why monitoring and improving employee engagement as a business, it is a business imperative. So these are the perfect ambassadors to new employees. They're exactly the kind of engaged employees that you want to grow within your organization. So in March 2018, we released a study that actually has proven the correlation between engaged employees and company success. So it's not just important for recruiting top talent, it's also good for business and your business's bottom line. The study, which was led by the University of East Anglia's Norwich Business School, is the first to examine the link between Glassdoor's ratings and company financial performance in the UK. So the study analysed 35,231 current employee ratings from Glassdoor for 164 large UK companies between 2014 and 2017. So just a couple of tips then on how you can go about engaging your employees before we hand you back to AssessFirst. So number one, start by giving employees a voice. Encourage employees to submit feedback through internal channels, company surveys, or sites like Glassdoor. So as employees share more feedback, a culture of feedback and listening develops, and they do become more comfortable expressing feedback both through online tools and also face-to-face. Number two, open and honest communication. So fostering a feedback and listening culture improves engagement. And this is because employees feel that they can offer input without judgment or backlash and help your firm succeed. Number three, acknowledge feedback. So whether writing a response on Glassdoor or following up with a conversation with an employee, acknowledging feedback builds trust because it shows you're actually listening and you are open to change. Number four, engage managers. 84% of how employees feel about their organisation is driven by their immediate manager. So when managers listen to what employees are saying and take action on what they've heard, an environment of trust will emerge from that. Number five, let employees drive engagement. Encourage employees to identify programs they would like to implement and then take ownership of those plans. So employee engagement programs created and implemented by HR or even senior management, they often do not receive the buy-in from employees organisations hope for. So getting the buy-in from those employees themselves is actually very, very successful. Number six, the last one here, reward engaged employees. So acknowledge employees who have created and sustained engagement programs. This is a highly effective and a low-cost method for encouraging engagement. Okay. So thank you.
Thanks, Finola. Thank you very much. And we'll come back with any questions at the end that people have, and after I've just gone through this little bit here. What Finola is talking about is kind of is the really interesting mirror side of what I'm talking about, which is this idea that your engaged candidate is looking at your company culture. They're well researched. They know what it is, and what AssessFirst can do for you is to help you really understand who your current employees are and who are those people that you're recruiting, so that you can make sure you're recruiting those stars and those high potential people that are going to perform well and engage with your company culture, rather than those zombies and vampires that we saw before. So on our AssessFirst platform, you can do this by any candidate that's taken Shape, Drive, or Brain. You can assess them through our benchmark job roles. We've got over 500 different job profiles on there, which has been taken from over 5 million people that have done our evaluation, where we define the best practice for each job role, which you can look at in terms of that candidate's characteristics. What you can also do is we have a data-driven model, and I'm going to show you how both of those work. First of all, just for the benchmark roles, what you can actually do is create a specific predictive model, specific to your culture, meaning that you can actually go through the very things that you want to measure in terms of new candidates coming into you, so that you feel that they actually match your company culture. So here, if we look at Shape, you can see that we're looking for people who try to convince others, spontaneously approach others, keep an emotional distance, and can react to criticism. If you wanted to say, it's very important for me that the person that comes is diplomatic, is able to speak to people with a sense of diplomacy, you can click on that area and we'll measure that within the candidate that applies for your job. As you can see, you can go through how they create and adapt, so whether they adapt to change, whether they're conventional, whether they persevere when confronted with obstacles, goes beyond assigned tasks, focuses on the positive, and any of these you can take out or add in if you feel that that's relevant to who you are as a company and the position that you're looking for. That's for shape. We can do that in Drive. So when you're looking at someone in terms of what they want to do, if they excel every day, meet new people, how they want to do it, in what kind of context they want to do it, so work in a disciplined manner, investing themselves without reservation, and why they want to do it. And finally, on Brain, you can define exactly how complex on each of those, whether that's analyzing situations, using knowledge, manipulating data, managing the unexpected, how complex you want that person to be in terms of their mental agility. That's a way of you going in and actually taking our benchmark models and making it very specific to your company, to your culture, to be able to measure the things that you feel are relevant. But there's a further model, and that's what we call our data-driven model, and it's what we call a talent review. Now, this is the most scientific way that you can actually recruit those stars and those high potential people that match your company culture and your values. What you can do is, and it needs to be based on something solid. If you're measuring something like this, it needs to be based on something which is more than just certain keywords that you've got in terms of what you think your company culture is. So the way that we suggest you do it is you can go onto our site, you can take a group of people that work within your company. Now, it needs to be a minimum of sort of 20 to 50 people, but it could be more. It could be the whole company. It could be certain departments. It could be a certain role. And when you put them in, their line managers or the recruiting team can rate them on a star system in terms of their real performance, so their KPIs, and also in terms of their attitude, so their soft skills or their cultural fit. And you can rate top performers, average performers, weak performance, problematic attitude. Well, you can even have some of those vampires in there where you've got top performance, but the attitude is not correct. And what you can do is you click on confirm on our platform, and within literally 30 seconds, and that's even if you've got 500 people, 1,000 people in there, our platform can create a model based on the main characteristics of those top performers in terms of their performance and attitude. We can give a scoring as to how well that predictive model is. And you're able to choose here from 80 to 100%, so that top 20%, we can pick out the main characteristics relevant to those top performers in terms of their soft skills, in terms of their motivation, and in terms of their thinking. And there's no secret to this, okay? We show you the results. We give you the radar of the kind of things that we're measuring in terms of their personality. We'll give you their expected motivations, and we'll talk about the kind of scores which we're looking to see them get when they take our brain test. All of this means that you can use this tailor-made model specific to your culture, specific to your top players, specific to your stars and high potential, in order to hire people that will culturally fit into your organization. How do you do that? Once you've created your predictive model, we can make what we call a recruitment campaign, where you can take this link here, and if you've got a job advert, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on Indeed, you can put that link there, and everybody that applies for the job position which you have will come through on a recruitment campaign on our platform here. Earlier, Finola was talking about people receiving lots and lots of CVs, but actually, how do you pick out those people that are well aligned with your company culture, that are going to be your future stars? This is a way to do it. I mean, you're already measuring on the specific top players that you have in your company. And we can give a scoring on everybody that comes through to apply for that job. Now, our best practice is that we would always say anyone with 60 or more has a very good chance of succeeding and thriving on that job and within your company. We can give you the details of their score in terms of shape, drive, and brain, and even give a manager fit there, what you see on the end, which says 5 out of 5. That's if you've got a manager who's working there and you know this person is going to come in. We can tell you how well those two people would work together. The important thing to remember when you're recruiting in this way, it's what we spoke of before. You're recruiting on mindset rather than skill set. You're focusing on what someone does as opposed to you're focusing, on what how they do something as opposed to what someone does, what their past experience is. And once you get somebody who's aligned with your company culture, who's aligned with the job, who has the natural skills to do well within your values and organization, they're going to stay longer, they're going to perform better, they're going to give you better results. Once you've found somebody that you think is interesting to look at in a recruitment campaign, it doesn't just end there. You can go in, we'll give an analysis of their potential. We'll talk about their behavior with regards to the job. We'll talk about their motivations. Again, you've got this radar here where you can see how well they fit in terms of their natural personality. And we'll give their strengths and weakness in terms of that predictive model that you've created. We make it empowering, so when a candidate comes to you in terms of candidate experience and so on, the information that we give to you, which is very, very detailed, is not just limited to you. The candidate themselves receives a summary of what you as a recruiter would get. It's very important for us that if somebody takes 10 minutes to take an evaluation online to apply for a job, that they also get engaging, positive feedback. So we give a talent cloud. We talk about their working style, their relationship with others, their emotional management. We give talent tags in the areas where they excel and areas where they can be more effective. For drive, we talk about what motivates that person and what demotivates them. The kind of activities that they prefer to do each day, the kind of activities which give them fulfillment. All about culture again, the environment they're looking to work in, the management style that would best set off their natural talents. And as we saw before, the kind of culture they want to work in, if that's one of innovation, competition, organization, or collaboration. And finally, brain. What kind of preferred work they have, how they use knowledge, how they manage the unexpected, the decision making that they have, and the learning style that they have. AssessFirst have over 3,500 customers. We're a pretty global solution. We're present in over 30 different countries, and more than 5 million people have taken our evaluation. That's pretty much it from me. I really appreciate everybody who's been here, and of course, big thank you to Finola from Glassdoor as well. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to type them in, and I'll try and read them out. I do have one question here, which is how would this translate to a company structure with a high volume of low-skilled employees, e.g., retail? I'm assuming that's a question more for me than for Finola. Yeah, I mean, we actually work with a lot of retail companies. So, we work with Burger King, we work with Lidl, and a lot of the time that, the big problem with retail is, especially when it comes to sort of store managers or mid to senior level managers, is they have a lot of turnover. So when you start to, if you can actually recruit someone based on their soft skills and so on, then you're looking at basically analyzing whether they're going to stay longer and cut retention, because the main reason for somebody leaving quickly is pretty much due to culture, to ambience, to a bad fit, anything like that. So for me, analyzing somebody on their soft skills for a retail position, particularly if it's a store manager position where they have influence and you want them to stay a long time. It's vital to understand them in terms of their personality, in terms of their drive, and in terms of their reasoning. I have another question here, which is what has been the predictive success to date? We work with a lot of different companies. The statistics, the general statistics that we have in terms of the kind of effect that AssessFirst has had on recruiting, as opposed to how they were recruiting before they were using us, is the following. We've seen plus 15% in terms of performance. We've seen a minus 30% in terms of the time it takes to recruit, because if you are pre-screening with that recruitment campaign that I showed you before, where you've got the scoring, it often means that you're able to basically pick out people that you know already are relevant for the job before you've even started the interview, and you can spend more time giving a quality interview. And the big one, which relates to the question about retail, is we've seen a minus 50% in terms of turnover, because it follows that if you're recruiting based on mindset, those people are going to stay longer, they're going to perform better, and they're going to give you better results. I want to find some questions for Finola here, because I've done too many. Finola, you can maybe answer this one. Is it true that one bad apple can spoil an entire culture?
It can, yeah. We have seen it. Well, to a certain extent, especially when we look at kind of reviews and feedback. I would say more so it's how things are managed internally. But in terms of Glassdoor, and if that bad apple does go to Glassdoor and leave a review there, it's definitely how it's managed by the company. So that responding to the review is really important, because not only are you responding to the person who has left that review, but it's more so all the candidates that are reading the reviews on their profile that you want to share your side of the story as a company. So definitely getting ahead of it in that way can help you.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have them off the top of my head, but there's you can look this up in the terms of, there's lots of stats in terms of the cost that one bad recruitment makes in terms of actually the cost to the company and the wasted time, and often, I mean, again, this is when it comes to culture. Certainly, when you're looking at that little graph that I did before, where they could be not perhaps aligned with the company culture, and then but they're not performing very well, and then they're a zombie. But if you've got that vampire there, so that they're performing well, but they're very much against the kind of thing that you're trying to build, or the thing that was being built from the beginning, definitely they can affect a lot of people, have an influence, and that can be within your company, and as I said before, also with your customers. Let me look also if there are any other questions here. I quite like general questions, so Finola is involved as well, because some of them seem to be very AssessFirst. I mean, one person here says, sorry to confirm, applicants complete a specific questionnaire tailored to our company in order to apply for the role through Glassdoor or another. What I'm talking about, I think you're a little confused. What I'm talking about is in order for you to be able to hire based on your culture, based on your specific culture, what you can actually do is ask your current employees to take the AssessFirst evaluation, and it would create a predictive model, a tailor-made model based on your top performers, meaning that when people are coming into your company, they would take the AssessFirst questionnaire, and you would be able to rate them in terms of your specific culture. So that would be through the AssessFirst platform. It's not through Glassdoor. Glassdoor is giving you an interesting mirror in terms of how people see your company culture. Do you have anything you want to add onto that, Finola?
Yeah, I would say that definitely in terms of an engagement strategy, capturing feedback from your current employees is definitely going to tell more of a story of what your current culture is like at the organization. What we find when we look at the data in Glassdoor is that if you let those former employees tell the story of what it's like to work at your company, they tend to bring down your overall rating, which if you don't manage, then it's not showing a true reflection of what your company is actually like to work at today. So it's important from that engagement perspective of your current employees that they take control of that story so that you can hire top talent.
And I have one more question at the end here. I've got somebody asked here, can I take a predictive model by only selecting people who are aligned with my culture or with the culture I want to promote? No. When you do the predictive model that I created there, it's far better to include people who are in the target and people who are out of the target, so therefore not aligned with your culture, because it will help to have better results statistically speaking. If you only select people who are completely aligned, the analysis can sometimes include certain criteria which would not be relevant. But if you include those sort of good performers and bad performers at the same time, then it's going to be able to pick out those characteristics which are really strong in those top performers and cancel out the others. So that's the way that works. Thank you very much for everyone who did ask questions. If anyone's got some more, I'll try and make sure that I can sort of either email you or get through. Finola, a big thanks to your help today. Really appreciate doing this with you.
Great, thanks for having me.
And thanks very much for everyone who listened, and look forward to doing it again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.